just for the recording, we've just had an hour of silence with the Santa Cruz group, and all of you felt peace. No one didn't feel peace. Okay, now remember, consciousness is experience. So although it appears to the human sense that everything's out there, it appears that Australia is a long way away, and Canada and Santa Cruz. It's not, it's right here. And therefore, as here is experiencing peace, so is Santa Cruz. For us, our consciousness. So is Australia. So is our business, our body. So we start to realize that what's happening here is everything. And in a nutshell, the peace within is the peace without, out there. The inner peace is the outer peace. Consciousness is experience. The inner is the outer. All is one. There's no inner versus outer at all. It's only the mind that can suggest such a thing. All is one. So what appears to be happening in here is actually the manifested world for us, our experience individually, out here. So if all of you have felt peace, I can tell you this. By the measure of that peace, you have just done your world and your body, your mind, your relationships, your activity, more good in that 1 hour than the last 100 books of reading have done, the last 100 hours of listening have done, and certainly the last billion years of worrying about everything have done. Just that 1 hour of peace. Now here's the interesting thing. If you really knew that now, if you really believed that, you'd step back into your world and see that peace. But you know what happens now? In other words, you'd see the healed body, you'd see the healed business, you'd see the healed relationship and so on. But you know what happens now? You don't know it. So you step from the peace into a sense of what? Separateness again. And therein you block it. You're still holding on, and you're actually not expecting anything to have changed, just because you sat here and felt peace welling up within. Now that's a great pity, because that peace actually has been the prosperity of your business right now, has been the life of your body right now, the peace of your mind, the love of your relationship right now. So let's have 5 minutes of stretching legs and things. But just 5 minutes. Keep your conversation in heaven and realise that all is perfect. All is good. Let's come back 5 minutes and we will start deconstructing the limitations of life. I had a book coming out in the spring this year called The Impersonal Self, and I scrapped the whole thing because it wasn't good enough. And I realised as I was driving down here that this may well become the basis of that book. The impersonal self, which is what it's all about. So yes, it may well be. Okay, remember now what the oneness is. It is infinite. The one being that we are is infinite, full stop. No exception. The one mind that we are is infinite, full stop, no exception. The one awareness that is infinite, full stop, no exception. And hence it says, his understanding, spirit's understanding, omniscience, understanding itself, which is the only understanding, is infinite. His understanding is infinite. Now, immediately we have an interesting situation because all of our understanding is finite. Every single thing about us is finite. Right? Even the ocean is finite. Even space is finite.
Is space finite?
Space isn't actually finite, but our understanding of it is finite. So again, let's go through it. Everything we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and think is finite. And yet, the only understanding, the only awareness, the only form, the only mind, the only activity, the only being, the only relationship, the only home, the only supply or abundance, money, the only money, is infinite. So we obviously, and interestingly, when we, let's do money. Who's got some money? Put some money, or hold some money, whatever it is you've got, penny or a pound or whatever else. You got some money? You got a pound? Good. Here. Whatever we're holding, we think is a certain amount. So we're holding a penny or a pound or a note of some sort. And immediately, number one, it's obviously finite, isn't it? And not only that, we've attached a label to that finiteness, and we say, in collective consciousness, it is worth, this is the funniest thing, it is worth so much. So in our minds, we now know whatever we're holding, we can go and buy something with. But not more than that. Holding a pound, I can go and buy some sweets, or I don't know, I can't even buy a newspaper these days, can I? Not that I want to. Well, you don't want to. You want to stop all that nonsense right away. Don't buy newspapers anymore. Unless you want to live this collective consciousness life longer. Don't do it. Don't listen to the news anymore unless you want to live this life longer. Because remember, consciousness is experience. Let your consciousness be filled up with that. That's going to be your experience by the degree that you believe it or accept it. But back to money. We are seeing a finite thing. Now look at it and realise that actually this very awareness that's pouring from you, seemingly from you, and realising finiteness, actually is and can only be the awareness, because there isn't another awareness. It can only be the mind, the consciousness that is conscious of this whole experience. Because you haven't got, nor have I, and nor has Buddha or Jesus or Lao Tzu or Shankara or Isaiah or Elijah or Moses and any of the others, our own consciousness. There's only the one consciousness, and the one consciousness is forever only infinite. So right now, as you think, or I think, we are aware of whatever we're holding, the awareness that's actually happening as us is only aware of infinite abundance. And that means that only infinite abundance is here in your hand now. Because there is nothing but infinity. There's nothing wrong with this world. There's nothing limited with this world. There is nothing limited with this abundance. Only our perception causes what appears to be a limit. Right now, your very awareness is only aware of infinite abundance. And what you do is you withdraw from the appearance. So start just doing that very gently. Just withdraw, i.e. close your eyes to the appearance. Just forget it. The appearance is complete illusion. So withdraw and realize, number one, what is the truth of this appearance? Well, the truth is that it is spirit. This is just an effect of what is really here. This is an image of what is really here. In the same way that if we saw whatever you're holding on the cinema screen, we could actually say, well, that's just an image of what actually is this infinity of light. Let's just imagine for a moment the light in the projector is infinite. And yet, the only thing on the screen is this that you're holding. But that's not what's actually on the screen, is it? What's on the screen is light, and let's just call it infinite light for the moment. So what we're doing is withdrawing from the screen and coming into the light. And realizing actually the image is just the light. This is just spirit. And now we're home, you see, we're in the impersonal, infinite self. How much spirit is there? Infinite. You cannot have a little bit of spirit. The only spirit is infinite spirit. The whole of spirit is right here. And so, this image is illusory, and not even the correct substance. It's not a coin or a piece of paper. That's not what abundance is. Abundance is spirit. And now we come back home to spirit and we find an infinity of spirit. So just rest for a few minutes now, realizing spirit. And every time the mind wants to go back to money, say no. No, that's just an image. But really what it is spirit. So bathe in that infinity of spirit for a few minutes with me. Bringing the mind back to spirit, infinite spirit. you begin to realize this and bathe in it, rest in it, you will feel peace swelling up within you. Whether you can or not now doesn't really make any difference. You will. Alright, now realize infinity is the only visible presence. It appears to be finite, but that's a lie. Infinity is the only visible presence. You cannot have a little slice of God, of Spirit. So if you have something called money, even if it's just a penny, actually you have the infinity of wealth when it comes to money. You just can't see it, and actually that doesn't matter. Infinity is the only visible presence.
Is this what Jesus was showing us with the loaves and fishes?
Yes. Now, in this way, we've deconstructed, at this moment, the personal finite sense, and we've stepped by degree into the impersonal, infinite truth of you. You've literally stepped into your paradise, your freedom, right now, as you have deconstructed that sense of finiteness, said no to it. Infinity is the only visible presence, of course. What other presence can there be? And then rested in it, and also realized, in parallel, that the only presence actually is spirit. So this is illusory, this thing. It's not actually paper, it's spirit. It's not actually metal, it is spirit. And spirit doesn't have an amount. Spirit is the infinity of all. So we've literally deconstructed, we've shaken ourselves out of the nightmare, out of the dream, and woken up. And here we are, we've stepped into infinite wealth, right here and right now. We'll do more about this, but I'll tell you here and now that if you maintain this, if you refuse to believe the image and the finiteness completely, so every time the mind goes into the bills that it can't pay or the difficulty it's having and so on, and pulls itself out again and realises, no, number one, the object here is illusory. The bills are illusory as well. Like, spirit doesn't owe anything. It's always the fullness. Come into spirit, it is spirit, therefore it is infinite. Literally, this very thing, it still seems like a finite amount of money as I'm holding it. But right now, right here, it isn't, it is spirit, Therefore it is infinite. The only visible presence is infinity. And then rest in that infinity, and you'll feel peace coming up, of course, because now there's nothing to worry about. Peace swells up. Now if you live there for even 1 week, your whole world will be rich. Your whole world is full of money. It's full of money now, but then don't see it. Because we keep attaching ourselves to the image. It's really very simple. We keep believing the cinema screen. We keep running up to it and grabbing it and trying to own it and tell ourselves that that's all we have. No, we don't. Number one, the images of everything we have are illusory, because actually what we are and all we have and all this world is and has is spirit only, and therefore is infinity only. Therefore I am and I have infinite everything, infinite all. It's only when I become confused and come out of myself again into finiteness and start believing it all, then I've got a problem. If I've only got that in my world, and actually one day I did, that's all I had in my world, exactly that, then I'm in a lot of trouble, aren't I? Because now that can only buy me, a couple of meals or something. Or maybe 20 if it's just bread and beans, perhaps, right? Not going to go very long. But, is that the truth? No. Come back home. Infinity is the only presence, the only visible presence. Spirit is the only substance, the only form, the only activity, the only me, the only everything everywhere. And it's all complete at every point of itself at the same time. Infinitely complete. Joyous, happy, glorious. There's nothing to do. There's literally nothing to do except come back home. Come back to your true self. And then the effect of coming back here and resting in the silence and feeling the peace is that it washes this false conceptual appearance away. And literally you then discover, for no logical reason at all, your business suddenly becomes prosperous. Or your body suddenly will do health, will do everything. But for no logical reason, and it's nothing you've done, it's effortless. This is the effortless life. Because the kingdom is finished. It's bliss, it's nirvana out there. It's already done. Your individual fulfillment of being is already perfectly here. Living itself, fully aware of itself right now. And here we are in Cheshire thinking that we're trying to gain something from this weekend. We're trying to learn something so that our world can become more of fulfillment. It already is. But we have to disintegrate this sense that is keeping that awareness, the tangible awareness, from our experience, from our sense of experience. Now, all of life, all of your utter fulfillment, of every single grain, every single aspect of your fulfillment, and of course, in this finite sense, we can't even describe what our fulfillment is. We think we can. We think, well, if I've got enough money and my body's healthy and my relationship's good and blah, 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 the world is more peaceful, that'll be enough. That'll be fulfillment enough. We know nothing. We are the infinite fulfillment. And that infinite fulfillment of being is here. It's within this sense of us. It's as if you have infinite bliss, infinite love, life, abundance, joy, relationship, activity, purpose within. And the only thing that's required is for us to be the outpouring of it. In fact, that's what that book's all about. The giving self. We have to be the outpouring of our own being. If we are ever, for 1 second, in any hour trying to gain something, get something, achieve something, we're completely in the movie. We are completely lost and confused. Think about that. If we ever once are trying to gain anything from this day or this hour or this practice, if we ever once are trying to better our life, better our love, better our relationship, better our business, gain better investments, have a nicer house, have a better car, whatever we're trying to gain is purely illusory. It's the sense of separation from what we really are, which already is the infinity of blissful fulfillment of being. The only way we can experience our fulfillment is by being it, flowing it out. We are completely a being of withinness that is only visible to us, tangible to us, as we, number one, know what we are, spirit. Number two, know the infinity of that which we are. I have not got one single limit in this whole experience. Not one. Nothing can hinder me, nothing can stop me. Nothing. Because I am the infinite wealth. So what could stop me? I am the infinite life. What could stop me? I, in here, am the infinite love. So how could I experience anything less than true love? And if I am experiencing something less than true love, it's because it's the mind on the job. Mind has made this relationship. Well, let me tell you, most mind-made relationships aren't going to last as you become spiritual. Or rather, as we're now becoming consciously aware and being consciously our spiritual self. We are like a spider and its web. What is the use of a spider looking out there for its web? What is the use of a spider starting a business to try and gain more web stuff so it can make a web? What is the use of a spider tithing, giving, being a good spider, helping old spiders over the road, thinking that by doing that I'm fulfilling my spiritual self more, so therefore I can have more web? The only place that web can come from is within itself, or from within itself. If it thinks by even a degree that by some outer activity or cleverness or niceness or givingness it is going to find a web out there from which it can make itself a web, it is in a state of confusion, is it not? It hasn't woken up to its truth of being. The truth of being, if we're a spider, is that all the web I want is within me. And actually, it's very interesting, because have you ever tried to get a spider web, roll it up into a ball and put it back into the spider? It doesn't fit. Have you ever tried that? It doesn't fit. There's more web than there is the body that produced it. Isn't that interesting?
Have you tried?
I have tried. I've tried everything. You get sticky fingers. It doesn't fit. Isn't that interesting? So where did it come from? In the same way, the money doesn't fit our world. There's way, way, way too much money as we understand what money is, and as, like the spider, we pour it out from within. Not money, we're not trying to have these things pour out of our nose and other orifices. It is spirit that we must be. Spirit. I am a spiritual being. Everything is spirit. It just looks like this stuff when it comes out. It looks like a body. It looks like a business activity, a relationship, a world. It isn't. It is spirit. And spirit is what the spider is producing, and it looks like a web as it comes out. A spider, as we, has infinite web. We have infinite money. Have you ever seen a spider, just because it's made one web now this morning, have you ever seen it going out to get a job so it can make more web this afternoon? It's the only way I can get more web. I better go and get a job. Or better start a business. It can make as much web as it wants to all day long. How can that possibly be? It never runs out of web. How can that possibly be? Its body's only that big. And the glands that produce it are even smaller. They're contained within that body. How can it be? It's because it's spirit. It doesn't think, I can't have enough. It just knows. It just carries on producing all day long if it wants to. And so can we. Do you think there's a different being happening as a spider than happening as us? Of course not. There's only one being. It's the same principle, the same law. When you see a flying squirrel, do you think that's a different law of flight than we use when we fly from here to there in an aeroplane? It's the same law of flight. It's the same law of abundance, whether we're producing webs or whether we're producing money or whether we're producing activity or love or life. All of life is within. All of web is within. If we have a lack of life, it's because we have thought that life is in the body. There's no life in the body. And as I've always said, if you want to check that, go to the butcher's shop right now and figure that out. There's a whole load of carcasses down there. See if you can find life in the butcher's shop. There's no life in the meat, in the body. Life is within, as the web is within, as abundance is within. And what is it? Spirit. And when we pour that spirit out, when we are being the beaming forth of what we really are, spirit, we have all the life we want. And if at the moment the body looks diseased, it doesn't matter. Start being the pouring out of what you are, and that disease will vanish. It's got no choice. If we haven't got a penny in our world today, it doesn't make any difference. We actually have all the abundance in the universe, and it is spirit. No wonder it doesn't look very abundant out there. You think it's called money. You think it's pennies and pounds. No, it isn't. It is spirit. And when we pour that spirit out, we see it as the fulfillment of whatever it needs to be. Life, or love, or money, or business activity, customers, patients, clients. We have to be the giving self. We have to be a being that realizes the only purpose of us is to give, to serve, to share, to pour out, to bestow to our kingdom. That's the only purpose. If we're in business because we think we're going to get wealthy and successful, we're going to be bankrupt and unsuccessful sooner than we know it. If we're in business because we know the purpose of that business or job, it doesn't matter what, are we in a job so that we can get that wage packet at the end of the month or week? Or, and here's the magic, you see, or are we in a job because it gives us an opportunity to pour out our spiritual self for the benefit of whoever or whatever environment this is. People getting jobs, people buying whatever it is they're buying. We're not there to sell, we're there to give. We're there to pour out, we're there to help bring joy to people's lives. I'm not saying abandon your margins and stuff, but I'm saying the whole awareness changes. And now we have all the time in the world for everybody. Now we see everybody as they truly are, spirit. I'm not trying to gain. If ever I think, I might get this sale and then I can pay my mortgage, I've blown it. But if I can give as much as possible, then like the spider's web, it is in the act of giving that I witness abundance. But if I reverse that like the rest of the world does and try and get, I've blown it, and one day I'll only have that, as many of us have experienced, and then I'm in trouble, until the time I'm forced, usually, which is what I was and maybe what you are, you're being forced, maybe others of us, either through a lack of money, a lack of health, a lack of love, in one way or another we're forced into the corner and we just give up. And finally, the spirit can get through, and there starts our truth in evidence. The very act of serving this minute is the act of witnessing abundance this minute. Abundance isn't this is the effect of abundance. Abundance is the act of giving. That is prosperity. You want prosperity? Give and give and give. And I'm not saying you give money as well. Sure, why not? It's just the same as giving leaves or giving nuts or giving anything else. But let's say you didn't have any of this at all. Not a penny. Does that mean you can't give? Of course not. You are spirit. This is spirit. So what are you doing? You're giving spirit. So you give love. Even silently. Just sit in the middle of the street if you haven't got a penny and give out your love. Give out your recognition that everyone and everything is spirit. I see you as spirit. I know you as spirit. Jesus said, "My peace I give unto you." And here it is, you see, not as the world gives. I'm not giving you money or bodily life or loving relationships or wonderful opportunities. I'm not giving as the world gives. The world thinks that that is what life is all about, and the more of that I can get, the better off I am. But no, my peace I give to you. In other words, spirit. Peace is what I will give to you, because peace actually is the only substance. Spirit actually is the only substance. And if you will only learn that of yourself and of this world, then, and you will only learn that, if only you will learn that the whole of this universe is embodied in and as your consciousness, therefore your consciousness has to pour out, then you will witness such wonders, such glory, such abundance, such life, untouchable, unaffectable by anything, that your whole universe has changed. And it's changed quickly. It's changed now. So if we haven't got a penny, or we're on our last breath of life, we don't really feel ready to go yet, or we haven't got a loving soul in our world, and we're feeling lonely, unloved, whatever our situation is, or we don't feel that we've found our true purpose in life, we're not really very happy, I'm really only in my job because I need to pay the mortgage or the rent or pay my utilities. I need to get by, don't I? I need to be able to buy a few bits of food and things, but I really don't like my job. That is a terrible state to be in, because you are the infinite activity. You are the most joyous, fulfilled activity of purpose. You are the fulfillment of purpose. Do not settle for working for money. Do not do that. Do not settle for relationships. I better... Go on, leave everyone right now. But you don't have to settle for relationships that are not anything but true love. And let me tell you, true love understands you. True love does not argue with you. True love does not get angry. True love is a blissful state of real love every single minute. We do not have to settle for something less. We do not have to settle for anything less than true fulfillment of activity and being. And if we do want to settle for these things, okay, but it's only because you're still outwardly focused and saying, well, I've got to live out here some more. But your whole self is in here. It's like the spider web, the spider settling for a 1-year-old web, tatty, old, loads of little bits of fly all over it. Does it have to settle for that? Well, no, it only will settle for that if it's confused. But at any moment it can start producing an infinite amount of fresh web. At any moment we can start producing an infinite amount of money, infinite amounts of love in our relationship, an infinite amount of opportunity in our world, infinite amount of anything, because we are that infinity. But there is no way in this whole universe to evidence even a grain of it if it hasn't come from within. That's the great secret of life, and it is an effortless life. Really, compared with the effort that we think we've had to make as a human being, it's a tremendous effort, isn't it? Not very rewarding, exhausting. Yeah, question.
Well, I was just thinking that effort, and maybe it doesn't matter, could be mental.
What effort?
The effort of giving could come from...
No. It starts off as, yes, it starts off as mental, yes.
Because you're doing it as a kind of exercise.
No, you're not. No. I'm going to say no to that.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm...
Because can you imagine the spider?
It sounds like if sitting in the road loving everyone, I can't do that of myself. Can't do that. But I could sort of convince myself I was. Or imagine myself loving.
But you're not loving the human being, because there's an awful lot of human beings that we, as a human, we can't possibly love. Try and love Hitler. Right? Or try and love the guy who's just mugged us. Or the guy or the girl who's just broken in and stolen all the jewellery or something. Try and love those people. But wait a minute. Who are they really? What is the truth of them?
Yes, I could follow that, but I
Yeah.
think I'd still be following it with my mind.
Yes.
And then imagining that. Do you see?
I do see what you mean.
And then I'd be coming from that. Yes, it would feel lovely, but I think it would be a mental concept.
Only to begin with. I mean, we've got to
That's
lift
what
above
I'm
the
asking.
mental concept.
Yes, and I'm asking you if you're saying start there, do the mental thing.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying just start to pour out whatever you can bring yourself to pour out. Go through your wardrobe, and this is very literal. First of all, but let me say this, if you do this without knowing of the infinite self, it's all a waste of time. Then we're back into metaphysics, where we think, we're in the outer world, and we think, okay, we'll give some money, and that outer activity of giving this to charity or to whatever we give it to, impersonal, is going to produce more. And there are books and books that tell you it will. And we've all tried it, and we've discovered it doesn't work, right? It does not work, it cannot work, there's no law, there's no principle behind it. However, the very moment you realise the two things that we've said, number one, I am spirit. Everything is spirit. Is a spirit. Let me forget about pounds, any amount. Let me forget about them. Because actually what's here is only spirit. And I am that spirit that is here. I am consciousness. Anything in and of consciousness is I being that thing. You don't really have to understand that too deeply. All you need to understand is we cannot see what we're holding in our hands. We cannot be aware of it if our consciousness isn't here. Right? That's simple enough. If I'm not conscious, then I'm not conscious of anything. Simple as that. So in other words, we could say, if you're unconscious, your world's not here. Is it? Is it? And that's why people in a coma, they wake up a week later and they're surprised. They don't know what's happened. And what happened to that piece of news or that piece of news? Well, people wake up 3 years later and the garden's all grown. And they go, what? Or the Prime Minister's changed, or a war has started, or a war has ended. You know the stories of the soldiers who got lost in the jungle and they didn't know the war had finished. Right? And they come out. Well, of course they don't, because the war is happening as their consciousness. So if we're unconscious, if our consciousness is not here, nothing is here. In fact, you can't prove that anything in your world is here if your consciousness isn't here. You actually can't prove that your house exists. Can you? Can you? you can't prove that your body exists. Try and prove it. Only thing, single thing, that is your reference point is your consciousness. Take that away, everything's gone. Everything. Even science knows now, and you've read this, a lot of you, that when your attention, when your consciousness isn't there, this is not here. It does not exist apart from in and as consciousness. And because it's collective consciousness, we can all describe Audrey's house. We can all describe each other's bodies or faces. We can all have a look at a photograph and say, oh yeah, that's so-and-so and that's so-and-so. Because it's collective consciousness. But if you're the only person in the world, what you remember is behind you is not there. It does not exist if consciousness isn't there. Science has proven that now. It does not exist. The only thing that exists is in and as consciousness. And there's a memory. And so we turn around and the garden's still there. But actually, if we all turned around, I mean, do it now. Just turn and look out the front window and realise that because the back is only in memory now, it's not in consciousness, is it? You are not now conscious of the back garden. You can't prove that the back garden is there, can you? Hey, you're looking. She's having a look to make sure it's still there. But we cannot prove it, can we? We can talk about it. We've got memories of it and we've got photographs of it. But actually, think about it. We cannot prove that it's there. It's only in and as our consciousness. Okay, turn back and have a look at it now. But now prove that the front is there. You can't. Only reference points we have is, can we see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think of it? Is it in memory? And actually it is not. It is in consciousness. It's in collective consciousness. Now let me take you through something that I think will help you enormously to understand this infinity of being and how we experience it. Keep in mind now a couple of things. Infinity is the only visible presence. Whether we can see it or not doesn't make any difference. Infinity is the only presence and the only visible presence. Infinity. Realise that this sense of awareness that makes infinity appear finite is only this sense of awareness. It's perception only. It's not reality. Reality is that infinity is here in all its glory, in all its substance, in all its tangibility. It is tactile. We begin to feel infinity. Of course, that's what we are. So bear that in mind. Realise something else now. Because there is no personal self, actually. There's only the infinite self. Individually aware of itself, certainly. You are the infinite self, aware of yourself, aware of itself, right here as you. But the only self you are is the infinite self. Therefore, all of everything is the infinite. It is spirits. It is God's, not ours. Because there isn't an us. So how can there be anything that belongs to us? Any more than gravity belongs to us. We experience it individually, but it isn't ours. We never say, that's my gravity, you get off it. Right? We never fence it in like we do our gardens. That's mine versus yours. And if I step into yours, you can sue me. We do this, don't we? We're crazy, us human beings. I'm going to sue you because you moved your fence 1 foot into my land. We don't own anything. The earth is the Lord's, is Spirit's, is God's, is the infinite's, and the fullness thereof. There is no personal anything at all. Therefore, we are like transfer agents of the infinite good. Now think about this very closely. If you get this, we can all go home right now in about 10 minutes' time. Because we're done. We are like transfer agents for the infinite good. That is all. So now imagine this. And that good can have 1 billion labels. It can have infinite numbers of labels on it. Good anything. That's all there is good anything. Good life, good money, good relationship, good earth, good kindness. All of the infinity of good is what we are. The only problem is that we've taken ownership. We think we're a personal sense. So we drop that. We are the impersonal. So this little sense of me that I still have now becomes a transfer agent for the infinite good. So imagine this now. Imagine you are right in the middle of the ocean. You're standing there in the middle of the ocean. Popping up out of it. Here I am. And imagine that our good is water. It could be that we trade with water. It could be our money. It could be our life. It could be anything. Let's just take money again, because money is such a beautiful way of demonstrating this. But it of course refers to everything. So there we are, and water is our money. Now, look, we're right in the middle of the ocean. And here's our bucket. So we're going to pay some bills now. So we get our bucket. And we transfer this bucket here to that guy over there who says we owe him some money. We owe him some water. So we do. There you go. Now, number one. Do we have a lack of abundance? We're right there in the middle of all the abundance we could ever want for 1,000,000 lifetimes, right? Do we have any fear? Is there any hesitation at all about passing this bucket of money, this bucket of water from us to him or her? Is there? Why? Because we are in the middle of the ocean and we can see it. There's abundance everywhere, right? So obviously we don't have any fear. Do we ever get confused and have our awareness become stuck in the bucket and think, well, that's all I've got at the moment? No. We're standing in the middle of the ocean. We've got all the abundance we ever want. Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. So now suddenly a big demand comes. Big one. Don't know what it is. £15,000 or £100,000 or 1,000 poor people come because they can't see the ocean. Can we or can we not provide them with abundance? Of course we can. Is there a minute's hesitation? Here, come and get. Come and get. Yes? All right. Now imagine this. Imagine that we're still in the middle of the ocean. Imagine that we've still got our 5 little buckets, let's say, of amounts of abundance above the ocean. But now, the visibility of the ocean is gone. Just imagine that. The ocean's still there, but we can't see it. That's all. It's still there, but we cannot see it, or feel it, or hear it. So the senses have just become finite. It's the only difference, though. And I should add one thing before we become finite. I should add that the more we pass, the more water we pass. Imagine taking the bucket out of the ocean. What happens? It fills up instantaneously, and the faster and the more it fills up, the faster and the more, does it not? Okay, so now imagine same exact scenario, except the senses have become finite, and we now can't see this infinity of ocean. But we're not fooled by that. We realise it is just a matter of not seeing. Like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is all over this earth, but men do not see it. The ocean is all around, but men do not see it. Material consciousness doesn't see it. It's too finite. Now, as long as we know that, we know the secret, does it make the slightest bit of difference? Why would it? We can only see the bucket now, and someone's demanding the whole bucket. So what? Give it freely, and in the giving of it, it's all filled up. And actually, what happens is that more and more and more and more, the more we give, the more we pour out, the more and more and more is our experience. It's as if the lens of perception widens and widens and widens as we truly live this infinite self and pour it out. Our only desire every minute, all day long, is to give and serve, pour out. Just get rid of it. Because it's the holding of it that closes the lens of perception again. Get rid of the stuff. Go into your wardrobes and get rid of it. I love doing that. Get rid of the stuff, even if you haven't worn it. Get rid of it if you haven't worn it for a bit. Get rid of all your shoes. Have 2 pairs instead of 28. Get rid of all your suits and stuff. Move it out, because in the moving out, as long as you know that the whole infinity of self is here, and the only way I'm going to witness more and more and more of it is by pouring it out, get rid of it, and then rest in the infinity of self, of spirit, and know that you cannot fail but to experience limitless fulfillment of all good tangibly. It passes through here and looks like this stuff. It passes through here and becomes new clothes, new shoes, new friends, new love, new opportunity. You'll have opportunity bursting at you from every corner, and you won't know what to do with half of it. You'll have so much money coming through, you give 80% of it away. You've got the whole ocean. Why would you keep it to yourself when there's people who don't know the secret and who desperately need it? And you find the miracle is absolutely true, as Jesus demonstrated with the loaves and fishes, and many other times, as Elijah demonstrated with the widow. What happened? The widow thought that she couldn't pay her debts, and her son was going to be taken away into slavery because she couldn't pay her debts, and that was how the debts were going to be paid. She called Elijah, the great spiritual master. And Elijah said, the first thing he said, "What have you got? What have you got in your house? What have you got?" Because the first thing you've got to do is start giving it away. You've got to start pouring out. She said, "I've got 1 little grain of meal and a little jar of oil." Hardly enough for even 1 meal. What does he say? He says, "Bake me some cookies and give them to me." Now that's about the cruelest thing you can say to someone who's got no food. Give me all your food. Isn't it? As a human being, it's about the cruelest thing. Empty yourself and give it all to me. But you see, he was teaching her the great lesson. And as she did that and gave it to him, then she had the experience, because his consciousness was there, of the oil never stopping until every single container that she could find, from all her neighbours as well. He said to her, "Go and get containers for all the oil." She must have thought he was mad. "I haven't got any oil, I've only got that much." But actually she didn't. She knew that he's the great spiritual master. And the oil never stopped pouring until all those vessels were full. What's the lesson? If we put a limit on the amount that we can give, yes, our abundance will cease at that point. Yes, our life will cease at that point, or stop being the freshness, the flow of life at that point. Yes, our love will shrivel up. Our relationship will shrivel up. Yes, we might get robbed. Do you see? We're doing it to ourselves. But the great lesson is give. Pour out of the self, which is spirit, and then as it pours through the sense of mind, it looks like this stuff. Or it looks like oil and bread and food and clothes and friends and love and opportunity. Unlimited until you stop pouring or I stop pouring. Now there's the great secret. You are the infinity of fulfillment. You are God itself, Spirit itself, the infinite glory itself. But we have to pour out. The only way the sunshine can experience the glory of itself is by pouring out. Again, there's a whole chapter in there of that. It's beautiful. How can the sun possibly complain that it's dark and cold out there? And how can it possibly think it needs to go and get a job or run a successful business or somehow gain it or buy it? The only thing it's got to do is pour itself out. And then it has all the sunshine and all the light it wants unto eternity, does it not? And it's exactly the same with us. It's exactly the same with the spider. Don't be fooled just because we can't see it. You cannot see the infinite through finite perception. Doesn't mean it's not here. It's here. It's here because you are here. It is you. Even in this body thing, it actually is your body. It is your mind. It is your being. The fullness of the infinite you have, you are, right this minute. And here we are, little shriveled up beings complaining, oh, I'm going broke, oh, I'm dying, I'm getting old, I'm getting weak. Of course we are. We're not being the infinity that we are. We've got to be it. And what's the only way to be? Pour out. It's the only way to be. If I want to be love, I can't just sit in a cocoon and imagine me being love, can I? That's not going to do anything. I've got to be love. I've got to pour that love out, and then I'll recognise it here. Do you see? I can't lock myself in a box and know all about... I could read 1,000,000 books about love, but if I'm not being love, I simply will not experience love. If I'm without a job, or I'm without a business, or I'm without money, I have got to be money. I've got to be abundance. I've got to be activity. So go and be. You can't experience anything unless you be it. So as I said to the Santa Cruz people, go and be. Go and start being employment if you want employment. Go and start being business if you want to be in business. Go and start washing windows. Go and start cleaning cars for free. It won't be more than 10 minutes before people are stuffing money into your hands. As you realise that I am now pouring out myself. I'm being. It's no use me sitting at home meditating hoping my business is going to get better. I've got to be my business. I've got to pour out. No use me sitting at home hoping my love will walk through the door, or my relationship will turn into one that's turn from one that's difficult into one that's beautiful. I've got to be that beautiful love. Be that kindness and understanding. You see? Truly, truly, if we get this, we're done. There's nothing more I can tell you. I can carry on for as long as you want me to, but there's really no point. That is it. Prosperity is in the giving, not in the gaining. How much am I giving? That is my prosperity. It's as simple as that. Therefore, knowing that, we look for every opportunity to give, to pour out, to somehow get ourselves out in love, in kindness, in giving of things. And that, the very act, if we go and give this now to a charity, this is my prosperity. I'm not down by £20 if I give this now. I'm up by infinity because all I realise is infinity. I'm giving infinity. Doesn't matter if you recognise that or not as the charity or the homeless person. I'm recognising it for you. I recognise you as the infinite, and I'm giving you infinity. And I know that I'm like the spider. I'm pouring out myself. I want to do this all day long. We do it all day long, in one way or another. If we've run out of stuff in our pockets or purses, wallets, so what? We'll stop and we'll be kind to that homeless person. We'll stop and be their friend for 5 minutes. That's giving, pouring out of infinity. That is filling your bank account. That is bringing you all the customers you ever want. That is helping people being employed. Whatever our activity is, that is being the success, the prosperity of whatever our activity is. Not when we've got a new customer or when someone's been employed or when they bought something from us. That's not it. That's the effect of it. And if you want much more effect, pour yourself out unlimitedly, ceaselessly, and you will witness ceaseless effect. You cannot keep it away from you as you pour out, any more than the spider can keep web away from itself as it pours it out. It's impossible. It's the infallible law of being, just as maths is the infallible law of maths and flight is the infallible law of flight. But we do have to tap into that law. We can't bend it, and it's not going to bend for us. So right up somewhere on the... In fact, I don't know how many of us have got tattoos, but we'd be well, it'd be well to get tattooed in the palm of our hand or inside our eyelids or something. Give. If ever I catch myself trying to get or gain or achieve, then I'm back in the dream state, and all that possibly can be my experience is a shrivelling world, a shrivelling body, a shrivelling mind, a shrivelling bank account, a shrivelling relationship. But as I reverse that and I become the flowing of the infinite, the giving of the infinite itself, I will witness infallibly as much good of this world that I want, and more than that, I witness so much that I end up giving it away faster than it's coming in because I can't keep up, and that's the truth. How can you keep up with the ocean? The ocean you can't get rid of the ocean. Give it away as fast as you can, whether it be money, clothes, love, whatever it is. It's you look and there's all this ocean. Let's rest for a few minutes with that. Don't try and do anything with it. You don't have to. Just let it do you. finally realise it doesn't matter whether you're giving pennies. Pennies are all we've got at the moment. Give them, pour them out. And you'll find them becoming pounds, then fivers, tenors, 20s, 50s, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Start with whatever you've got. And if you haven't got anything, it doesn't make any difference. Pour out spirit and you'll soon start seeing that as things and start giving them as well. Okay. Seconds left.
I hope you enjoy this spiritual audio. Like, share and subscribe for more.